And Dave Sussman back with you at American Freedom Alliance, and delighted to have with us Rebecca Friedrichs, who has her book, and it is Standing Up to Goliath. Fascinating story, Rebecca. Tell us a little bit about the union situation that you were facing, and you were just sharing with me a little bit as well for our guests.
Sure. So I was an elementary school teacher for 28 years here in Southern California. And from day one, in fact, from the time I was a student teacher, I watched as teachers would abuse little kids and the union would protect them. I would try to fight against negative policies that were literally destroying our schools and my profession. And no matter what I tried to do that was right for children, that was right for teachers, I always ran headlong into the union I was forced to fund. All teachers have been forced to fund unions as a condition of employment for about 50 years.
So this has obviously been a long time coming. Teachers don't have any say whatsoever, no matter your political party as a teacher. You could be right or left, and you have to fund. And what happens with that money through the unions?
Yes, well, this is what's interesting. And by the way, I want your viewers to know, I even served as a union leader in my local association on the executive board, trying to change things from the inside, because most teachers just want to teach, just want to love on the kids and do a good job. But our money is taken from us, and it's used to fund the far left agenda in this country.
Right.
And when you look inside my book, I have some tables where I show where the money's going. Almost all of it goes to Democrats, far left Democrats that
Right.
believe in abortion and all sorts of things that most teachers disagree with,
Yeah.
but we were forced to fund it.
Now, we were talking right before the camera started rolling, and I asked you point blank, I said, is this anything to do with Janus? This happened before Janus. You said precipitated Janus. So
We're the trailblazers.
You are the trailblazers for Janus, which now prohibits unions from requiring member dues to what exactly?
Right. That's right. So in the past, you didn't have to be a member of the union and you didn't have to pay dues,
Right.
but you had to accept their representation and pay them fees. And the difference between dues and fees could be $50 a year, $100 a year. It was nothing.
Yeah.
And you couldn't vote in collective bargaining or anything. You paid for it but couldn't vote, didn't have a voice. So our case, Friedrichs versus California Teachers Association, which was the trailblazer for Janus,
Right.
argued that all government employees should be able to decide for ourselves without fear or coercion whether or not to fund unions.
Yeah.
And our case was poised to win 5-4 after oral arguments in January 2016, but Justice Scalia died 1 month after our case was heard. So we lost that vote, ended up with a tie. Janus came in behind us, and on June 27th, 2018, Janus won. And now all government employees who are unionized are free to pay unions nothing.
So how has that impacted the unions today?
Well, it hasn't impacted them enough yet.
Okay.
It's impacted them some, and they're very upset about it. But the reason it hasn't impacted them enough is kind of threefold. Number one, they immediately raised the dues. So those who opted out, now they just raise the dues on everybody else, and then they bully you. You're a free rider because of you, we're raising the dues on everybody else. So the bullying has always been there, but it's gotten worse. So when you opt out, you truly are isolated and bullied, and the unions have taught other employees, particularly teachers, to bully each other. And it's really tragic because these teachers aren't typically people who would bully, but they're believing lies. They're believing that when you opt out, somehow you're bringing harm, but you're not. You're exercising your liberty, and maybe you have discovered that the unions are spending all your money on politics, and you don't want to do that. Most teachers are unaware. Second thing the unions did was, during our case, they came up with something called the Friedrichs fix. And that fix was a whole lineup of bills that they brought to any blue state, particularly here in California, basically undermining the freedoms that they knew employees were going to win through Friedrichs and Janus. For example, one of those fixes was they wanted a new law that every single employee who's in a union shop has to meet with the union for 30 minutes during company time on the taxpayer dime and hear all about how great the union is, and no one else has that benefit, no other outside organizations, only the union. That's now law in California.
Wow.
Yes, another fix.
Okay.
Another fix was the unions want the personal contact information of
Yeah.
anyone in a union shop, and they want that contact information updated 4 times a year, but no one else can have that information. No other independent organizations. That's now law in California. And they came up with all sorts of other fixes to trap people. So those sorts of things are being used now to trap people in unions. And I think the biggest reason unions haven't felt the pain that they should yet is the bullying. They terrorize people, especially teachers. If you opt out, if you dare to take an independent stance and say, I don't want to fund this, I don't want your representation, no thank you, they bully you so harshly and they isolate you from your colleagues. So you feel trapped. You feel like you have to stay in the union. Most teachers just want to teach.
So it's coercion.
Total coercion. And that's what we fought against. So we have won, but I always tell people winning the lawsuit was just the first domino. We have so much more work to do. We need to...
What are the plans here?
Well, my plan is, so that's why I wrote this book.
Okay.
So the book is full of testimony, all true stories of teachers totally abused by the unions. I also expose the radical sex ed agenda that's in our schools now that I probably can't even say on airwaves, but they're basically teaching 11-year-olds about oral to anal sex and those sorts of things. That's just a little piece. And the teachers' unions are behind it all. Teachers don't know that. They don't know they're funding that sort of stuff. There's also these horrible discipline policies now. We're not allowed to discipline kids anymore. Teachers literally have PTSD because our classrooms are war zones. Teachers don't know they're funding that through their union dues. So this book is to expose what's really going on in unions, to educate. And what I ask non-teachers is, I have a program called Adopt a Teacher. Adopt every teacher you know. I don't care what their politics, if they're kind people, adopt them. Give them this book. Share your book with them. Have them read it. Once they read it, they will leave the union.
I have a question for you, and this is coming from a personal standpoint. You were a teacher. Okay, you were in the union, I suppose, at one time because you had to be in the union.
That's right.
What has been the reaction to you standing up to the Goliath?
The reaction of loving teachers or the reaction of the unions?
Both. I mean, you got it coming and going both ways, I'm sure.
Right. Okay, so loving teachers.
Okay.
Throughout the lawsuit and today. Take me into a dark room. Are there any cameras in here? Is anyone listening? Rebecca, thank you so much for what you're doing. I'm praying for you. I'm behind you 100%. My husband, a professor, he was the director of the School of Music and Dance at San Diego State University. He just retired.
Right.
There he was teaching. I'm bringing this case. He would post to Facebook because I would say, honey, could you post my editorial? And he'd go, boy, everybody's going to kill me for that. So he'd post it saying something like, I'm proud of my wife. She stands up for what she believes. One by one, faculty members from all over the college would come to him quietly. Dark room again. Anybody listening? I'm behind your wife 100%. Tell your wife I'm cheering for her. Tell your wife I'm praying for her. Okay, teachers and professors are underground if they have any type of conservative values or if they're against what the unions are doing. They're terrified. So they were quietly cheering us on. The unions. Well, the president of the California Teachers Association, during a statewide meetings that I was funding with my forced dues, called myself and my fellow plaintiffs the spawn of Satan. Multiple times. We have it on audio. Spawn of Satan. They also called us the pawn of the Koch brothers, the whore of the Koch brothers, the pawn of the wealthy 1%, anti-teacher, anti-child, anti-public school, you name it. Whatever angry, ugly, divisive term is out there, the teachers' unions are the ones writing those talking points for the far left. If you've been called a bigot, a homophobe, a transphobe, whatever they've called you, teachers' unions are writing those talking points. So they attacked us with all of those names. And my fellow plaintiffs and I, 10 teachers, 10 loving California teachers who every day give their heart, pull out money from their own pockets to help their students, do all kinds of loving things for kids.
Right.
We held our heads high. And we said, we know we're doing what's right for the kids. We are here to serve the kids and their parents and the taxpayers who are funding our pay every day. By the way, funding the dues we're forced to give to these corrupt unions. Some people think, well, I thought unions were good. They were at the beginning, but they've become what they used to fight. They're not just unions, they're corrupt unions. And so that's what we fought against.
Wow. Where can folks find more information about you and the book?
Well, they can find me at forkidsandcountry.org, F-O-R, kidsandcountry.org. That's our website. We started a nonprofit called For Kids and Country. We'd love to have their help in any way. Follow us on social media. They can find all that information on our website. And the book's also on the website, but it's also available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And I read it, so they can get it in Audible. Or they can buy audiobook or get it in Audible with my voice. Kindle, Nook, it's all over the place.
Fantastic.
In all sorts of forms.
Best of luck with everything you're doing, and love to speak with you further down the road and find out more information about what's happening with the unions. Check this out, Really Information, folks. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back.